Item: SCP-510. Object Class: Keter. Special Containment Procedures. Instances of SCP-510 are to be treated as a Level 1 infective substance, and are not to be handled by anyone not in contained atmosphere Haz-Mat (CAHM) suits. Any staff interacting with SCP-510 must be monitored for 1 month after interaction. Infestation by SCP-510 will be met with immediate quarantine and sterilization of the surrounding area. Containment units must have airtight seals on any and all possible access points. Staff access is to be provided by a dual airlock, with chemical showers at each stage. Robotic surrogates are to be used whenever possible for SCP-510 interaction, and all materials interacting with SCP-510 are to be sterilized and quarantined for 1 month after interaction. Seals are to be checked and repaired weekly. Any staff observed expressing elevated levels of fatigue, sleepiness, or exhaustion are to be quarantined and tested for infestation. In the event of multi-subject infestation, site-wide lockdown will be initiated. Description: SCP-510 has thus far proven difficult to fully identify. It is possibly a form of microorganism or a form of nanite. The particles of SCP-510 appear to be surrounded by a field that causes a blurring effect even at high magnification. Tests have come back with wildly varying results, and samples have simultaneously exhibited properties of organic and non-organic matter, as well as properties of solids, liquids, and gases. Current research views it as a form of mold or virus, due to its response to high heat and chemical sterilization. SCP-510 infests soft surfaces such as fabric, feathers, hair, or foam, with the ability to remain dormant in such substances for years. If SCP-510 encounters delta waves, typically emitted by humans entering sleep, SCP-510 will activate and begin to infest any nearby organic life. Infestation follows a set progression. See Addendum 84B. Symptoms and progression, most often ending with the death of infested subjects after 4 to 6 days. SCP-510 appears to prefer mammalian life for infestation, primarily human beings. Attempts to artificially infest other life forms have met with very limited success. Possible applications of SCP-510 and its life support function are being researched. High heat and highly acidic chemicals have been able to dissolve SCP-510 particles. Dissolved particles leave behind no detectable residue.